games under his arm. He barely noticed that there in the box, along with the badminton and volleyball, was another game called lawn darts. He didn't think about it until one of those lawn darts stabbed through the skull of his 7-year-old daughter and killed her. From that moment on, David Snow became a one-man crusade, determined to get the government to ban the darts before they killed again. So determined that on Capitol Hill, the senators, the congressmen, the secretaries are saying they've never seen anyone like him before.
There's a terrible thing going on up here. Senator Hollings chairs the committee, and I really like to, just a couple minutes of the senator's time. I mean, I've lost my child. I've spent my life fortune trying to save other children, and if maybe somebody could just meet me halfway and give me 2 minutes of his time so I can tell him what's going on.
How does one man with a personal mission, an aerospace production supervisor from Riverside, California, get the attention of the high and mighty on Capitol Hill? If you're David Snow trying to get a law banning lawn darts, you do it any way you can.
If you can squeeze me in, I can say what I have to say in 2 minutes. And if you can give me a 2-minute appointment with Senator Hollings, I don't mind if the meeting's in the hall, in the bathroom. It doesn't matter to me. I'll meet with the guy anywhere. Every day we wait, there's a possibility another child's going to be killed, like my little girl.
Is that your favorite puppy?
No.
Huh?
Yeah.
It was on April 5th, 1987, that David Snow's world fell apart. In the morning, he made these home movies of his daughter, Michelle.
Daddy, can you come over here and hold the puppy?
I can't. I'm taking movies right now.
By afternoon, she was in a coma. A lawn dart had pierced through her skull.
The next thing I know is Michelle comes running around the corner, and she had her arms out, and my wife was on this side, and I was on this side, and she's running towards us. She didn't scream. She couldn't talk or say a word. And she ran full force right past us into the side of the workbench and actually bounced off it. And I think my wife and I, we caught her as she was falling. It's a nightmare that never ends. She was our dream come true. She was. I used to look at her and I used to thank God that I had a little girl like this. All the hopes and dreams that I had for her, they were just gone. Everything gone.
The lawn dart game that Snow had purchased was supposed to be played this way. The darts tossed underhand into plastic rings on the grass. But Michelle Snow's brother and some neighborhood kids who found the darts in the garage accidentally threw one over the fence into the front yard where Michelle was playing. It landed on her head. It was a dart like this, with a blunt steel tip, weighted so it can fall with lethal impact.
When they're dropped from 15 feet, when they hit, this is 23,000 pounds per square inch. The skull of a child is very soft and very pliable. And as we know, it'll go through the skull of a child.
It actually lodges in the skull.
It goes into the brain.
Probably some parents would say, you take a look at a lawn dart. And every parent knows this is dangerous. You look at it and you can tell this is dangerous. So you treat it like a knife. You treat it like matches. You don't let the children get around it.
Then why do they put them in with badminton? I've seen a lot of kids play badminton, and besides it says family fun on the box. I consider my child part of my family.
If the Snows were outraged by the seductive labeling on the box, they were even more outraged by another discovery. They learned that back in 1970, lawn darts, which are mainly manufactured in Hong Kong and Taiwan, lawn darts were considered so dangerous that they were banned from sale in the U.S. But because of pressure from the sporting goods industry, that ban was relaxed. The new law said the darts could be sold, but only in sporting goods departments as a game for adults. They could not be sold in toy stores or in toy departments, and the package had to carry a bold warning label.
The manufacturer might say, you know, we did have a warning. It was his fault. He didn't look at the warning.
Here we're talking a 3-foot high box with a little tiny warning. I mean, there's something in that box that can be fatal. That's what my anger is, because I know what happened. I didn't see the warning, and my child is now dead. Because if I had seen that warning, I would have never have brought this product home. Never.
The dart that was involved in his daughter's tragedy was in compliance with our existing regulations.
The man who is in charge of enforcing those lawn dart regulations, not only the warning label but the display away from the toys, is the chairman of the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission, Terrence Scanlon.
But he says he bought it in a store, right next to the toys. He could stand there and put his hand on the dolls.
Technically, it was not in the toy department, so that retailer, in this case, did not violate any standard.
And here we are. Bicycles over there, which is a child's toy. Lawn darts were surrounded by toys, but he said no clear violation occurred. Does the lawn darts have to be impregnated inside of Barbie dolls to be a clear violation? I mean, they're physically touching toys.
So it's all right with you if a manufacturer puts it right next to the toys, as long as it's not in the middle of the toys.
I don't like that, and I don't want to get into a legal tussle with a retailer.
So current compliance, recent compliance is how good, how bad?
Current compliance is good. Compliance a year ago was not good. We're rectifying that.
A year ago, compliance not only wasn't good, a full 1/3 of the retail stores were violating the rules and selling lawn darts with the toys. And not only that, in a published report, the Consumer Product Safety Commission conceded that all 14 of the dart manufacturers were violating the requirements on the warning labels.
When 100% of the manufacturers are in violation and 30% of the retailers are in violation, who can possibly correct it? Who can possibly control it?
We are controlling it right now.
But David Snow, the self-appointed watchdog, finds a violation nearly every time he walks into a store. He also finds store managers who don't even know about the rules.
The comics, the badminton, the lawn darts, the tennis ball.
That's correct. This is a clear violation.
Can we ask you about the display of these items? Are there rules that you know about for the display of these items, where they should be placed?
I never heard of any such rule.
Don't know about any rules. What about the lawn darts themselves? Have you ever heard that they're dangerous?
That violation factored in the death of my little girl.
Okay, I'll pull them off then. I didn't know.
Not only would I like you to pull them off, they belong in the sporting goods department, but as a favor to me, would you take them back and put them in the dumpster?
Over time, Snow's growing anger at the Consumer Product Safety Commission transformed a private person into a one-man political action committee. He took an unpaid leave from his job and from his home in California started writing letters and making phone calls to Washington bureaucrats. 200 letters and a phone bill he had no money to pay. Complaining about the commission and urging someone to help get the darts off the market. But he was getting nowhere until a congressional aide asked if he'd like to testify on Capitol Hill. He had to skip a mortgage payment on his house to pay for the ticket, but the time had come for Mr. Snow to go to Washington.
Did you have any idea what you were going to do when you got there?
Not really. The only thing I knew about government is what I can remember from American government in high school. And even then, I think I was asleep in the back of the class. I never appeared before the city council, let alone Congress. And I don't know what came over me. I was just one angry papa.
We're not talking about a responsible industry here. We're talking about a bunch of importers whose only concern is lining their Gucci suits with dollar bills. And they don't care about your kids or my kids or anybody else's kids.
Even jaded politicians on Capitol Hill were moved by David Snow. He and his testimony forced the Consumer Product Safety Commission to open a new investigation into lawn darts. The commission had been saying it was aware of only 22 injuries from the darts over a 12-year period. The investigation prompted by Snow showed something very different.
What the truth was is that there were actually 6,100 lawn dart injuries treated in the nation's hospital emergency rooms since 1978. That's 700 children every year screaming in hospital emergency rooms from lawn dart injuries, some of them permanently paralyzed with neurological damage.
And this is information that the Consumer Product Safety Commission found out because you pressed them.
Because I pressed them on the issue.
Was the commission talking about 22 injuries over 12 years? Was that all the commission knew about the number of injuries from lawn darts?
22 injuries in 12 years. I'm not sure. I'd have to check that.
But he says you were handing out a circular. You had an alert, a warning that went out that talked about 22 injuries.
I'd have to see that.
Last March, with Chairman Scanlon voting with the majority, the three-member commission rejected a ban on lawn darts by a vote of 2-1. So Snow had lost, but he was not about to be stopped. Last spring, he decided he would try to move that even more immovable institution, Congress. He would try to persuade the House and Senate to pass a law banning the darts. Capitol Hill is accustomed to lobbyists with big offices and big expense accounts. David Snow went to Washington again with no money, just one suit, and a battered briefcase.
I was angry, and something was wrong. And I do know that I live in a participatory democracy, and I have a right to go to Washington as much as anybody else. I have a right to be in that town as much as our president does, and to let my views be known. And that's what I intended to do.
Hello, David. How are
Senator
you?
Wilson, how you doing?
Good to see you.
Thanks for seeing me.
Snow's Senator Pete Wilson introduced a bill outlawing lawn darts, and then Snow went to work trying to get it passed.
I start knocking on doors, I start calling on the phone, and I get busy.
You seek people out in the halls,
Yes,
corner
I chase them
congressmen.
down. Listen to me. You know, help me. What I'd like you to do is help me in any way you can. People smile at you. People tell you things. But you don't know what they're really thinking or feeling. I don't know. Sometimes I feel that when I leave their office, they forgot about me. I hope not. Okay, bye now.
When do you get most frustrated during these long days?
I just get tired. I get tired of, I got blisters on my feet, running from building to building, waiting rooms, sweating inside my suit, carrying this thing around. Well, the whole thing just gets to be a drag. I'll be honest with you.
Well, the senator's not here. She said that Rouse says this is an issue we support your position on.
The bill is up for the committee for markup and reporting. It's just sitting there.
But did they give you any reasoning on it? It's been sitting there alone?
No, just typical Washington. Typical stuff, you know, just standard for things to sit there unless somebody kicks some people in the tail to get something going here.
The last time we saw David Snow on Capitol Hill, it was his 5th trip to Washington. He had spent his entire life savings of $14,000. And what did he have to show for it? His bill was still stuck in a legislative subcommittee. But his campaign against the Consumer Product Safety Commission had helped spark a congressional revolt against the chairman, even calls for his resignation. Scanlon ended up reversing himself on lawn darts, and the committee voted 2-1 this time in favor of a ban on the steel-tipped darts.
I would just like to add that I appreciate the help that David Snow has given the commission in coming to this conclusion.
I commend Mr. Snow also.
Admire his persistence?
Persistence? What have you. I admire David Snow.
But the commission's ban might not take effect until 1989, and that's not soon enough for David Snow. He continues to stalk the streets and corridors of Washington to get a law banning the darts immediately and fulfill the promise he says he made to his daughter, Michelle.
I'm not waiting for anybody's help, you know. It's either help me or get out of my way, because I've got to do it.
Since we filmed this story, David Snow has quit his job and established the Michelle Snow Foundation dedicated to safer toys. And what about lawn darts? The ban on them by the Consumer Product Safety Commission has yet to take effect.
You wouldn't believe the Pathfinder.